All right, everybody, we are live. We'll wait a little bit for some people to jump on here. So play with some calls. All right, everybody, welcome to Wapiti Wednesday Q&A. I am Michael Batiste from the Elk Calling Academy, helping you find success faster in the elk woods through elk call reviews, gear reviews, elk calling lessons, tips, and tutorials. So, it is that time of year. It's fire season, and I know there's some pretty good fires going on out there, and I've had quite a few people ask me lately, what effects forest fires have on the elk. Are they going to leave the area? Are they going to come back? And there's a lot of variables in that. First answer, yes, they are going to leave the area. Second question, how far are they going to go? That really depends on the size of fire, where they're at in relation to that fire. Obviously, if they're kind of in the middle of the line, yeah, they're going to go a little bit farther. But fire is not a bad thing. It actually generates new growth. It actually releases a bunch of minerals in the soil. So fire can be a good thing, but there's a few factors. It depends. Is it just a ground cover fire? Is it, torching trees also? How hot the fire is. Because depending on how hot the fire is, that's how much it's really going to burn down into the ground. So depending on how hot the fire is also going to determine how fast everything will regenerate and regrow. But cool thing about it is when the fire goes through, a lot of those pine cones that drop off that are closed, the fire actually gets them to open up and release their seeds. And that's where a lot of the new growth, new trees come from. But the plush grasses that start growing right after a fire, I mean, those things are just chocked full of nutrients. And so, one of the questions, how long until elk come back into the burn area? Again, it depends on how hot that fire is. A few years ago, 3, 4, maybe even 5 years ago, we had a fire come through an area that we hunt, and the fire was put out right before season started. And then, we had some pretty good heavy rains, and the fire burned enough that it made about 6 inches of really, really loose dirt and loose soil. And then we got a couple of days of heavy rains, and, we got to a place and located, and we had a bull answer us right in the middle of that old burn. So we actually went in there, and because of that powder that soaked up all that water, it was like an ice skating rink. But we managed to go in there and pull the bull and a cow out. There was 3 of us. 2 of us still had tags, and so we ended up pulling 2 elk right out of that old burn. So yeah, it all depends on how intense that fire is. But once it cools down, I mean, those elk will get right back in there. This is an area that they've lived in. They're used to. They want to go in and check out what happened. Obviously, if they go back in there and there's still some feed in there and whatnot, then they're going to stay in there. You'll see sometimes too that a forest fire will burn kind of in a mosaic pattern, which means it'll burn a group of trees here, miss this batch, burn this batch, not this batch. And when you kind of get that patchwork or mosaic, they'll definitely go right back into that area. Mother Nature, best cleanser. Yeah, actually it is. So, fires, like I said, they are a good thing. They really start a lot of new growth. I've had good success hunting in burns, but I've also gone into other burns that burned extremely hot. And I mean, it took a few years for, anything to really start growing back in there. So if you get a really hot fire like that, the elk will come back in to check it out, but they're just going to go ahead and leave. They're going to move on and find, their food, their cover, their water, everything that they need to survive. So just because you have a fire in your area, don't immediately throw your arms up and go, it's over. Now, the other thing I was asked is, what if there's a bunch of smoke in the air? Doesn't affect them at all. So I've been, again, hunting out there, forest fires were nearby. The canyon was just chock full of smoke and elk were ripping their heads off. So rut was still continuing, didn't really affect it at all. Again, successful day on that one. So I think more so, I mean, if the smoke is really, really thick, then you need to kind of worry about your own health, breathing that in and whatnot. But it's not going to shut them down. It's not going to affect them. So the smoke, that is. So, all right. Another topic, I was asked if I would kind of talk about a few of my favorite camo patterns or what patterns I kind of like. And, there's a few of them that I like, but the biggest piece of advice I can give you guys on camouflage is stay within your budget. Everybody has a different budget. So, you don't need to be going out buying the most expensive gear if you don't have the money for it. There are several camo brands out there that are highly affordable, that are highly effective. And honestly, there's so much other pieces of gear that you need to get. So, don't spend all your money on camouflage and then you kind of have to skimp on other stuff. But while I'm talking, guys, if you guys have questions, go ahead and put them in the chat and I'll be more than happy to answer them while I'm talking here. But so a few patterns that I really like, I've worn King's camo for years, and I was looking at the pattern the other day and last weekend when we were up scouting, and I took that black and white picture of my hunting partner, and he had a Sitka top with military style BDU camo bottoms. And it's amazing how those bottoms just turn solid black in that black and white photo. So I'm going to take some of the camo that I have and definitely take a bunch of black and white photos with them just to see, what happens. But King's camo, I've worn it for years. It's held up. The pattern has worked really, really well. Cryptek is another pattern that I've worn for years and have had good success. I've worn the Highlander camo pattern. They do have a new altitude pattern out that looks really, really good. It's got blacks and grays and greens. Looks really, really good. There's a new company on the market called Skre Gear, S-K-R-E Gear. They are out of Utah. They have a new pattern that I really like. It's almost along the lines of those digital camo. And then another one I really like is the Kuyu pattern, where you have the different shades and really give some good depth. So, Tyler, I don't have any First Light. I wish I did. Is there a certain pattern in the First Light? Because I know they have, a few different patterns. I have some friends that do have First Light. So Tyler, let me know what pattern specifically you're looking for in the First Light. I'll see if they have it. If they do, Fusion. Okay. I'll see if they have any Fusion, and I'll try to get some photos of it for you and kind of post, some of those pictures. So, First Light makes great gear. Merino wool is a tremendous moisture wicking layer. Merino wool is one of the best layers that you can buy. It's antimicrobial, it's antifungal. It helps kind of reduce the stink a little bit. So, if you only have, two full sets of camo to get through a week-long hunt, if it's merino wool, you'll be doing okay on that. So, yeah, those are a few of the patterns. Sitka pattern, I do like it. But probably, my favorites are along, that new Cryptek altitude. And really the more I look at the Kuyu pattern, the more and more I like it. their Verde 2.0. So really, really liking the pattern on that one. So, all right, guys, Friday's video is Rocky Mountain Hunting Calls Buyer Guide. I go through the entire lineup, talk about each reed, kind of what type of caller they're designed for. I do have a spreadsheet just like I did on the other video I did a couple of weeks ago. So hopefully this will help you guys. I know season's coming fast. If you're really wanting to try some new reeds or really want to make sure that you have the right reed, the Rocky Mountain Hunting Calls Buyer's Guide will be up Friday. It will go live about 6 p.m. Mountain Time. Great day today. Had a couple of meetings. We got some good, exciting things going on. So hopefully we'll have an announcement on that next week for you guys. But that's kind of all I have, guys. Oh, the one thing on the fire too is, especially for you guys that are going out of state to hunt, don't put all of your eggs in one basket, meaning have a backup plan. We are in the fire season, you know, lightning and thunderstorms coming through. Fires can start really, really easy. Make sure that you have backup plans. You have alternate spots that you can go to. The last thing you want to do is spend all summer long just scouting one area online. Maybe you take a couple of trips out there and scout it. You're locked into that position. And then, you know, a fire flares up middle of August and you know, your spot's on fire and now you're scrambling to do some work. So once you really have your spot narrowed in e-scouting, find a second spot, maybe in that same unit that you're in or another over-the-counter unit that's not too far from that. You know, it's generally a good idea to have a little bit of distance between the two spots, just in case a fire does break in one, you have that distance that you can go and get to the second spot. So, all right, guys. Hey, thanks for tuning in tonight. Always appreciate your guys' support. As always, keep calling, keep